To be honest, there's something that deeply troubles me whenever I sit down with my patients at the clinic. When I ask them what supplements they're taking to maintain their health, at an alarming frequency, they mention one that human studies have shown is actively damaging their blood vessels. This leads to a crucial question that I believe all of us, especially those in this precious stage of life, need to ask ourselves. Could the very pill we trust to keep our bones strong be the same thing that's silently creating the risk for a heart attack? And this isn't an isolated case. There are as many as four other extremely popular supplements that science has proven can do more harm than good. These are the ones I always advise my patients to stop taking immediately. If you find the research summaries and health strategies I share to be helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below to receive more valuable health tips. The first supplement I want to talk about is one of the most abundant minerals in the human body. It is critically important for our muscles, including the heart, to function smoothly. It is essential for the signals that travel through our nerves, and we cannot have healthy bones without it. I am talking, of course, about calcium. And that is just one of 5 acquaintances on your supplement shelf that I want to warn you about. If you are like the majority of my patients, you have probably never heard about these potential dangers, so allow me to explain. For decades, we have heard time and again how important calcium is for strong bones, and this is especially true as we enter the later chapters of life. As we age, our bodies naturally begin to lose bone mass, causing them to become weaker and more brittle, which increases the risk of fractures and osteoporosis. Have you ever wondered why doctors pay special attention to bone health in postmenopausal women? It's because the hormonal changes in their bodies promote an accelerated process of bone loss, sometimes as much as 3 to 5% per year for several consecutive years. Why does this happen? Imagine our bones are not a static block of stone, but a living city with constantly active construction sites. Cellular processes are constantly breaking down old bone tissue and rebuilding new one. When we are young, the rebuilding process is more robust, but as we age, the balance begins to tip towards losing more than we rebuild. So the solution seems obvious and logical, doesn't it? If we are losing the primary building material, which is calcium, then we just need to supplement with more of it. Many of us have thought this way, but this is the crucial point, where a good intention can lead to an unexpected outcome. Our health is a complex system, and what seems logical on the surface does not always play out as we predict. What if our body processes a high-dose calcium pill completely differently than it does the calcium from a glass of milk or a plate of green vegetables? This is the very origin of the problem. And this is where the story gets complicated. When scientists began to thoroughly analyze the research on calcium supplementation, they discovered some astonishing results. We had expected to see a clear benefit, a significant reduction in fracture rates. However, the actual picture is very mixed. One large-scale meta-analysis showed that many of the initial studies that seemed positive actually had a significant risk of bias. When we focus only on randomized controlled trials, considered the gold standard in medical research, the story is completely different. Calcium supplementation does not appear to provide the clear bone protective benefit we once assumed. But the story doesn't just stop at disappointment. It turns into a real safety concern as more and more evidence of potential harm comes to light. One of the first warning bells came from a meta-analysis in 2010. This analysis compiled the results of many trials and discovered an alarming truth. Those who took calcium supplements had about a 30% higher rate of heart attacks. The numbers from a more recent cohort study in South Korea are even more concerning. This study focused on people with osteoporosis and found that those who took calcium supplements without vitamin D skyrocketed their risk of a heart attack by nearly 90%. This demonstrates the complex interactions within the body and emphasizes that supplementing with a single substance can have unforeseen consequences.
A deeper study on a large group of women in Sweden further reinforces this concern. The researchers found that those with the highest calcium intake also had a significantly higher risk of death from all causes, and especially from heart disease. So, what is really going on here? Why would a calcium pill, which is meant to strengthen the body's framework, be linked to the risk of a heart attack? Scientists believe the answer lies in how our body handles a large and sudden amount of calcium. Imagine this. When you take a high-dose calcium pill, it causes your blood calcium levels to spike abnormally. This spike can overwhelm the body's natural ability to regulate it. And this is where the danger to the heart emerges. High blood calcium levels can cause excess calcium to begin depositing into the walls of the arteries, including the coronary arteries that feed the heart. This process is called arterial calcification.
Think of it like limescale building up inside the water pipes in your home. Over time, these calcified plaques make the arteries hard, narrow, and less flexible. When one of these atherosclerotic plaques ruptures, the body responds by forming a blood clot. If that clot is large enough to completely block blood flow to a part of the heart muscle, that is precisely when a heart attack occurs. This is the very mechanism that scientists most suspect. So, does all of this mean we should avoid calcium entirely? Absolutely not. Calcium is still an essential nutrient. The key difference, and also the glimmer of hope, lies in how we get our calcium. There are two main options, from supplements or from our daily diet. And for most people, the second option is the much safer path. Why is that? Because calcium from food is absorbed slowly and gently, without causing the dangerous spike in the blood that supplements do. If the hypothesis about the blood calcium spike is correct, what would we expect to see in studies? We would expect to see cardiovascular risk increase with the use of supplements, but not increase or even decrease when calcium is absorbed from natural sources. And that is precisely what the scientific evidence is showing. A large-scale cohort study was conducted to test this exact idea. The scientists tracked changes in the level of arterial calcification in participants over a 10-year period. The results were incredible. They found that those with the highest dietary calcium intake actually had a 27% lower risk of developing arterial calcification. This indicates that calcium from food has a protective effect. Conversely, this risk was 22% higher for those who used supplements compared to those who didn't. When the researchers sorted the data differently, the picture became even clearer. The highest risk group was supplement users with low total calcium intake, relying mainly on supplements. The safest group was non-supplement users with the highest total calcium intake from their diet. And that is precisely what the scientific evidence is showing. Another study also found a similar pattern. Calcium supplements increased the risk of death from heart disease in men, but dietary calcium intake had no negative impact. In fact, when we look specifically at people with pre-existing coronary artery disease, calcium supplementation has been linked to accelerating the process of blood vessel calcification. An analysis of data from 9 clinical trials involving over 5,000 people showed that the odds of calcification progression were 15% higher in the group taking calcium supplements. So, aren't there specific high-risk populations that should use calcium supplements, such as the elderly and nursing homes? Not necessarily. A large and very practical study looked at how boosting calcium from the diet could help elderly patients in residential care facilities. Instead of giving them pills, the researchers added calcium-rich foods like milk, yogurt, and cheese to their diet to help them reach their required calcium intake. The results were impressive. This new diet helped reduce the risk of fractures by 33%, while also avoiding the cardiovascular risks associated with supplements. Of course, there are still exceptions. For example, vegan women may be at a higher risk of fractures without supplementation, as their diet may not provide enough calcium.
In such cases, supplementation may be necessary, but it should be done under the close supervision of a doctor. But the overarching message remains very clear. For the vast majority of us, boosting calcium from our diet is a safe and effective way to give the body what it needs without increasing the risk of heart disease. And the story of calcium becomes even more complex when we look at its companions. Our bodies need more than just calcium to build bones. It needs vitamin K2 to act as a director, guiding calcium into the bones and teeth, instead of letting it wander and deposit in the arteries and soft tissues. It also needs magnesium to help regulate calcium and vitamin D levels. When we ingest a large amount of calcium without enough of these supporting nutrients, we are creating an imbalance that can exacerbate the risk of arterial calcification. This is a perfect example of why nutrition from food is superior. A glass of milk or a serving of sardines doesn't just provide calcium, but also comes with a host of other nutrients that work in harmony with each other. Conversely, when scientists look at those who absorb calcium from food, they see a completely different picture. The risk of arterial calcification is actually 27% lower. The message couldn't be clearer. The source of calcium is critically important. However, calcium is not the only supplement associated with potential negative health impacts. Now, let's look at 4 other very common types that might be on your supplement shelf at home. First up is iron. We need iron for transporting oxygen in the blood, producing energy, and for proper muscle function. An iron deficiency can cause fatigue, weakness, and brain fog. But with supplements, it becomes very easy to get too much. Even a mild surplus of iron can reduce levels of zinc, another essential mineral, and can upset our digestive system. Worse still, high doses of iron are truly dangerous and can lead to serious organ damage.
Therefore, just like with calcium, the safest approach to iron for most people is to get an adequate amount from our diet. Adult men need about 8 milligrams a day, and women need about 18 milligrams until they reach menopause. The most easily absorbed form of iron comes from animal sources. Iron is also found in plants, like green leafy vegetables and legumes, but this form is a bit harder to absorb. Of course, there are still exceptions. At my clinic, I sometimes still prescribe iron supplements, for example, for pregnant women, those who have heavy menstrual periods, or people with digestive problems. But it is crucial that this is done based on a doctor's recommendation and under their supervision. Next, let's talk about a very popular antioxidant duo, vitamin E and vitamin A. You've probably heard the enticing claims that they can extend lifespan, protect cells, and prevent cancer and heart disease. For these reasons, manufacturers have been encouraging us to increase our intake of them. But this is a bad idea. First, vitamin E and A deficiency is extremely rare in the general population, as they are found in a wide variety of foods. Second, and this is crucially important, vitamin E can interfere with the incredible benefits of exercise. Exercise is one of your most powerful tools for maintaining a healthy heart and controlling blood pressure and cholesterol. Incredibly, some studies show that high-dose vitamin E supplementation can actually diminish these precious benefits. Third, there is a disturbing possibility that vitamin E supplementation could actually be shortening our lifespan. An in-depth Cochrane analysis, which reviewed 78 trials with nearly 300,000 participants, found no evidence that antioxidant supplements help reduce mortality. More shockingly, the evidence even suggested that vitamin E might increase mortality. That is the complete opposite of what we want. And when we talk about all-cause mortality, cardiovascular events are always a major part of that picture. For years, we have heard about harmful free radicals and antioxidant knights in shining armor. This theory sounds very logical, but when tested in rigorous clinical trials, this theory collapsed. This is known as the antioxidant paradox. One of the most classic examples is the study of beta-carotene, a form of vitamin A, in smokers.
Researchers expected it to reduce the risk of lung cancer, but the result was the opposite. It actually increased the risk. Similarly, the in-depth Cochrane analysis that reviewed 78 trials with nearly 300,000 participants found no evidence that vitamin E helps reduce mortality. More shockingly, it even suggested that vitamin E might increase mortality. This teaches us a humble lesson. Biology is far more complex than simple theories, and taking a single nutrient in high doses can disrupt the body's delicate balance, leading to unforeseen consequences. Similarly, vitamin A at high supplement doses is also linked to an increase in mortality, as well as the risk of weakening bones and causing liver damage. That is why, for safety, I do not include either of these vitamins in my multivitamin formula. Finally, there's resveratrol. The initial claims about its ability to extend lifespan have been shown to be based on lab errors. Later studies showed that it has no effect and even diminishes the benefits of exercise on blood pressure and cholesterol.
Scientists initially thought it could activate a longevity enzyme. An early study claimed it extended the lifespan of yeast by 70%, but it was later discovered that those initial results were just a lab error. Later studies not only showed that it has no life-extending effect, but they also revealed disappointing outcomes. Just like vitamin E, resveratrol was found to diminish the positive effects of exercise on blood pressure and cholesterol, two crucial factors for cardiovascular health. At this point, we don't have good evidence for the benefits of resveratrol, but we do have evidence of its harm. Therefore, supplementing with resveratrol is not a wise strategy. The story behind resveratrol is even more complex, involving a payment of up to $720 million. To understand more, be sure to watch my next video here. After hearing all of these warnings, you might feel a bit overwhelmed and ask yourself, so what should I do? This is a completely reasonable question. However, the answer is not to eliminate all supplements, but rather to adopt a smarter, more conscious approach. I call this the smart supplement philosophy, which is based on three key principles. First, always remember that food must be the first priority. Our body is like a garden, and whole foods are the rich, nourishing soil that nurtures the body in a balanced and natural way. Meanwhile, supplement pills are like chemical fertilizers, sometimes necessary, but if overused, they can disrupt the natural balance and cause harm. Real food not only contains vitamins and minerals, but also provides fiber and thousands of precious phytonutrients that our bodies have evolved to best absorb. Make your meals a colorful and diverse feast. That is the sustainable root of health. Next, you should become an active partner in the relationship with your doctor. Don't rush to buy a supplement just because someone recommended it or you happen to read about it somewhere. Turn every decision into an open discussion with your doctor. Before your appointment, you should prepare important questions such as, based on my test results and current condition, do I really need to supplement with this? If so, what is a safe and effective dosage for me? And how will we monitor for effectiveness and potential side effects? By doing so, you will have a clear, safe, and realistic plan. Finally, look beyond the pill. Supplements, no matter how good, are only a very small part of the overall health picture. Quality sleep, regular physical activity, stress management, and maintaining positive social connections, these are the true core pillars of a long and healthy life. No pill can ever replace the relief of a deep sleep, the invigoration of a morning walk, or the joy of warm conversations with loved ones. When you apply this philosophy, you will no longer be a passive consumer in the supplement industry, but will become a proactive, discerning manager of your own health. This is the path that leads to safety, effectiveness, and a truly healthy life. True health is not found in a bottle. It is built from wise choices made every day. It is built from a colorful plate of vegetables, from a walk in the sunshine, and from open conversations with a doctor you trust. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever been surprised by what you learned about a supplement? What has your experience been? Please leave your thoughts and stories in the comments below. We can learn so much from each other's experiences. And if you want to continue receiving evidence-based health analyses like this one, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for being a part of this important conversation. wishing you the best of health.